people's platform notification. You will be, if you sign up for the text message, you will be getting a notification when that vote comes up. So. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, well, there was my friend Charlie, he just had a workshop. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. The question was just like about the delegates. There was a delegate workshop that went on earlier today. It was held in the workshop room, and that was just know your rights, basically know your rights for delegates. So, yes, sir.
We're now streaming back with about 10 seconds delay. It's working. Well, it's on my YouTube right now. And your camera started to cool down.
Just checking. Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. Yeah, it's the process. The voting is majority. It's a simple majority. If the A's have it, then the flag will be included. Another thing, so just so everybody knows, the way that the process is going to happen, we're going to have a presenter who will read the summary. Then we will have an advocate who will speak in favor of the platform and its inclusion on the people's platform. And then we'll have an open discussion where anybody can offer comments. And then the presenter and advocate will have the opportunity to respond to those questions. And then we'll refresh that. So that's what the process is going to be.
So there's no, and this follows up on an earlier question, so that discussion has no opportunity to modify it at all. It's just vote on, it's discussing what people came up with.
So the question is, so we're not actually amending or modifying the platform plans per se today. What we're doing is this vote is for inclusion or not on people's platform. And again, to repeat, that process will be opened up again in the future. It's something that's been going on for months now. So the text message has the opportunity to be involved.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did you get the text message from me?
Pardon?
Did you get the text message from me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have ideas.
If you're going to pick a site, it seems like
use and they can actually leverage the platform and elections. It's a method for folks to organize.
Yeah,
It's a space for people
trying to put it on
to
the actual site. This is
respectfully amongst each other.
very
decide what exception. Yes. What's going on? I don't know how. Yeah. Hello.
let's see everybody throwing this.
It's actually a good feed.
Well, I'm using mine, and I can get a little bit more. So this is going through. That's what that means. This is in, that's out. So it should be on. I just have my
very top down structure. They do have some bottom up feedback channels, but it seems to be really geared around how they get into power and then how they keep power. I think that the left progressives are quite fragmented, and that is an issue. So my question is, what should be participate systems and organizational structure? Or this week, yeah, is there a group of elites, or it starts in 1 minute?
Yeah, no, but I would suggest, I would suggest maybe having a discussion in the World Cafe would be a good place for that. Okay. For today. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So,
That's why.
yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, if you haven't already, please do text at platform vote to 23559. So we're going to get the voting is going to happen right now. We're going to go through our first platform. Okay. So I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Lindquist, who is done amazing work, and she is one of the of the Build Democracy plan.
Are you sure? You have to say okay.
We joined the political revolution of 2016 to create a future to believe. A future we take on the enormous economic and political power of the billionaire class and win. A future in which we produce jobs, raise wages, protect the environment, and provide health care for all. But we will not realize this future until we create a system of influence that renders elected officials directly and exclusively accountable to the people as citizens.
Shut it down.
A truly representative democracy requires the assurance of an equal right to vote, equal representation, and elections funded by the people. Because all citizens deserve equal access to the ballot, we call for the restoration of protections against voting discrimination that was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court in the Shelby County versus Holder decision through the passage of the Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2015 and the Voter Empowerment Act of 2015. We call for nationwide automatic voter registration. We call for the expansion of early voting and the designation of election days, including primary days, to be state and national holidays. We call for national legislation to guarantee that every voter's ballot be counted. The legislation will ensure that every voting precinct is adequately staffed with sufficiently trained personnel, and that every ballot, including provisional ballots, be counted.
Open network preferences at the bottom.
I just want to see if I can get onto the phone.
Of all parties in public and videotape. All ballots must be preserved for a period of time after the election and be open to public scrutiny. If electronic voting machines are used, standards for secure and verifiable open source voting machine architecture and software should be developed and adopted by all states. We must also ensure that independent election observers are given full access to monitor all elections. Currently, independent parties and candidates face a host of barriers designed to limit voter choice and voice. Ballot access laws and debate rules specifically designed to exclude independent party candidates, discourage participation, and undermine the legitimacy of our elections. We call for national legislation to end prohibited ballot access requirements and replace the Partisan Commission on Presidential Debates with a nonpartisan Citizens Debate Commission. Because all citizens deserve equal representation, we call for congressional action to give each voter as close to equal political influence as possible through the passage of Fair Votes, Fair Representation Act. The Fair Representation Act will require congressional elections to be conducted by ranked choice voting in multi-winner districts drawn by independent redistricting commissions. Ranked choice voting will be used for all primary and general elections, and all states with more than 5 House seats will create fairly drawn multi-winner districts, while smaller states will elect elected delegations at large. Voters can freely choose from their options. Replacing winner-take-all elections with an American form of proportional representation ensures that every election will be competitive, ending one-party representation in every corner of the state. Women and people of color will be more fairly represented. We support implementing ranked choice voting for mayor, governor, president, and other single-winner elections so that the people can have real choices and never have to accept the lesser of the two evils. Ranked choice voting is without fear they are hoping a candidate they don't like. All first choices are counted, and the candidates with the fewest votes are eliminated. If a voter's first choice candidate is eliminated, their vote instantly goes to the next choice. Candidates with the fewest votes are eliminated until there are just 2 candidates left. Just like in a runoff election, the candidate with the majority of votes in that final round wins. We call for all party primaries to be open to all voters. It is also time to end the disenfranchisement of over 500,000 Americans who reside in the District of Columbia. DC residents deserve the same political rights enjoyed by citizens of our nation's 50 states, namely full voting representation in both houses of the U.S. Congress, as well as legislative, budgetary, and judicial sovereignty. Washington, D.C. is the only existing majority African-American federal jurisdiction, and thus the denial of D.C. voting rights is inherently racist. The denial of D.C. voting rights cannot be defended on the basis of population size. The majority white state of Wyoming has a smaller population. We support granting statehood to the District of Columbia. And finally, because all citizens deserve equal ability to choose our leaders, we call for a constitutional amendment to abolish the illegitimate, court-created legal doctrine of corporate constitutional rights and money as speech.
I don't know what this was, but it's commented out, so it's not loud.
Until we have an amendment, we support congressional action to accurately define what constitutes coordination between campaigns and Democrats. We call for legislative remedies to end pay-to-play politics by changing the way we fund political campaigns. We support the creation of democracy vouchers, offering every voter a small voucher that can be used to make a political donation with no out-of-pocket expense. We support the creation of small donor tax credits and public matching funds for candidates who agree to fundraise solely to small donors. These provisions are outlined by the government by the people. In order for voters to evaluate the full context of political advertising and hold associated candidates accountable, it is imperative that we require groups airing election ads to disclose where they get their money. Corporations, unions, super PACs, and secretive nonprofits should report within 24 hours of making a significant campaign expenditure, and the names of donors should be made donors to the organization should be made public. This would be required by the Disclose Act. We call for the Constitutional Federal Election Commission as outlined in the Federal Election
I don't know why that's
Administration
not
Act
working, because it just works.
replacing the 6-member commission with a new 5-member panel in which no more than 2 members are affiliated with the same political party. We support effective new limits to restrict the revolving door between government service and work as a lobbyist, such as the lifetime ban on lobbying by former members of Congress as outlined by H.R. 929. We encourage plans that would prohibit politicians from fundraising during working hours, make it illegal for politicians to take money from lobbyists, ban lobbyist fundraising, and strengthen the definition of lobbying, calling all who lobby for a living lobbyists. It is essential to achieving the truly representative democracy, the republic that the founders would expect of us today. And it is essential to realizing the future we join the political revolution to.
Now, we gotta get this link.
And
Jackrabbit.
next up we have the amazing David Cobb as our advocate
You can say
for
it's
the
live on
platform
our
behind
website.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
So my name is David Cobb. I have always said and will continue to say that I am a revolutionary. I am a non-violent revolutionary, but I am a revolutionary, and I encourage all of us to give ourselves and each other permission to use that language. I also want to continue by saying explicitly and clearly that the United States of America is not now, nor has it ever actually been, a functioning democracy. That's 7 to 10 minutes, that's it, y'all. Notwithstanding the creation myth of this country, notwithstanding what we were taught and trained as children with the creation myth of this country, notwithstanding what we deserve, we are not a functioning democracy. So the point before you is an acknowledgement that there is no democracy to take back. We must create one. And I appreciate the fact that we are in this august space, but I am not a founder fascist. Because I think it's important that we acknowledge and honor and lift up the rejection of monarchy as a form of rule. That's good. Boston Tea Party, nonviolent civil disobedience aimed at the collusion between the corporate East India Corporation and government. That's good. The codification of the enslavement of Africans. The clear, explicit claim that women are not persons. The clear and explicit exploitation and oppression of white working class males. I reject those. And we have to do that coming to you from people who have an acknowledgement and recognition that the meta problems are the creation of white supremacy, the reality of patriarchy, and an effort to exploit women and workers. So the plight before you is merely a beginning of our effort to attempt to democratize elections and democratize the United States of America. I want to point out, as a lawyer, the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Well, folks, if it is true that this land is fundamentally racist, sexist, and class oppressive, and that is true, see, if these things are true, then maybe we need to start thinking and acting differently than we have been. I think it's amazing that we're living in a moment where people are actually recognizing that you don't either do elections or social movement work. You know, in the global South, they're way ahead of us. They don't make that artificial distinction. And you know why I think in the global South, Central and Latin America, Africa, North Africa, the Middle East, Asia, you know why I think that their movements are ahead of us? Is because they don't make any bones about the fact that they're against empire. They don't make any bones about the fact that they are going to use every tool available to them to engage transformational change. That is what we must commit to today. That is what I believe this platform fight is beginning to move us to. So the thing that I want to underscore, folks, is yes, these are very concrete improvements to the existing electoral system. The existing electoral system is like Disneyland for democracy. You get to go on little rides, right? You get in line, you do what they tell you to do. You go on a ride that goes round and round and round, but then you get off the ride, you're in the same damn place you were when you started from. I like that line. I'm going to use that. The point I'm making, friends, we are talking about concrete changes that are obtainable, that are tangible, that are steps on the road. Now, I'm going to be right straight up. I was very pleased that the We the People amendment calling to abolish all corporate constitutional rights and money of speech is in this platform. Right? Does anybody believe that we had a functioning democracy before Citizens United? Hands? Hands? Right? But the reality is, I don't believe that we had a functioning democracy in 2009, so overturning one Supreme Court decision ain't going to get it done. Right? We need systemic change. We need transformational change. We got to take on white supremacy and patriarchy and empire. And an amendment, as great as it is one step. Because I'm going to go even further, friends, and I'm going to tell you this. The movement I'd like to be part of, the one that I want to be part of, I want, about 5-10 years into this, that folks come to me and say, hey, thank you, Daniel Lee, thank you, Johannes Hepka, thank you, Fran Regan, thank you, David Cobb, for this We the People amendment and move to men, but you jokers weren't thinking visionary enough. We need a whole new constitution. We need a whole new legal system that will actually protect human rights and the rights of nature. Think about that, friends. Because the current Constitution, which definitely is not sufficient, protects property rights, not human rights. And it does not even contain the ability to imagine the interconnectedness that we have with one another, never mind Mother Earth. So, at this point, I can roll this class. This plan is concrete, it's specific, but it does not pretend for a moment that it's enough. It is the beginning of a process. And that's what we are asking of you, my colleagues at Move to Men, ask you to join with us in a democracy movement. Right? And you know how I know that something is happening? Is because people are starting to talk about a democracy movement. See, I've been part of the women's movement. I've been part of the anti-racist movement. I've been part of the global justice movement. I've been part of the environmental movement. I've been part of a lot of these movements, all of which I'm very proud of, that were around constituencies or issues. But I am, for the first time, beginning to hear people talk about a democracy movement. The idea that our movement is about power. You know, the issues matter. We have to fight for those issues. And we may have some disagreements, and that's okay. We can respectfully disagree and still be in the same current on our various issues. But at the end of the day, something profound and magical is happening because a democracy movement is emerging in the United States. We almost never get the opportunity to experience what that means because the word democracy comes from Greek. Demos, the people. Kratia, rule or power. The people rule. How many of y'all believe we the people rule in the United States? Actually, we have more power than we dare to believe. Far more powerful. The problem is our power as individuals is almost meaningless. I got 2 minutes left. Our power as individuals is almost meaningless. Only by organizing, collectivizing together can we actually exert that power. Don't believe the and cooperate collectively together and exert the power that we actually already genuinely have. We can do this. We got this. I stand before you recognizing that this plank is not perfect. I recognize that there are things that need to be added, tweaked, but I stand before you urging you to support this plank as the beginning of a process to democratize elections, to democratize the United States of America. Last point. We do need a revolution. We need a political revolution. Political revolutions cannot be run, argued in one election cycle. They cannot be won, W-O-N, by one candidate, no matter how good that candidate is. A real political revolution requires a level of commitment, a level of political education and consciousness, and at the end of the day, we come together. Whatever it is that inspires you, find other people to inspire and be inspired by now. And I'm going to lift up my good friend, Head Rock, the mayor of DC Hip Hop, who says, if you want to change your situation, you better join an organization. Peace.
Five people speak, and then we'll have a response, and then we'll move on to the so go ahead. So the summary that you just heard Elizabeth read is in in our program, and then the full version is it should be live, and then the full version is online at thepeoplesrevolution.org/platform.
I understand this plank is the first step. You can't do it all in one go, but I don't understand why we don't simply call for exclusive public funding of elections. Because as long as you have, even if you abolish Citizens United, as you very well put in 2009, it didn't make much difference. The corporations were still free to spend money, so looking at ours or something like that, that doesn't speak to the issue that we need to abolish the massive spending of money on elections so that people from the Green Party or the small minority parties can compete fairly with people from the Republicans and Democrats. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Burns. I'm from Wisconsin. I actually have an issue regarding the state of just right now. The Constitution would give the power to regulate the capital to the Congress. So I'm assuming that they would want all the rights to all states in. I'm just wondering why it doesn't call for an amendment to the Constitution, like it does in other places here with other issues. I just feel that, if people who create a state, they wouldn't have the same rights as a state. So I was just wondering what the rationale for not calling for it to the Constitution and keeping the state of voice.
this is a really good platform, and if I'm around the application, I can vote for it. I think it's time to think about something also in addition. This is where the American Constitution was written, and I think it's time we think about writing another one. So it would be really great if things like universal health care was a constitutional right. It would be really great if something like an environment that actually humanly inhabit was a constitutional right, because we're losing an ecology that human being can actually live in. Our legislature does not work. We have geographical representation, which just guarantees pork and corruption. We have a Senate that blocks all progress by having these ridiculous, like, 2/3 majority rules. That should be abolished. Rather than working through this rigged system where we haven't had an amendment for decades and we seem to be, incapable of getting one. Okay, thanks, man. I think we actually have to go outside the legal framework and establish a completely new legal framework. And this is where we did it once. We can do it again. And when you're talking about doing something like this, it's not like you just get a committee together to write it. It's more like a process of who writes such a thing. You need mass organizations, you need movements, you need civil society. And I don't think this will be taken up necessarily by this committee, but it's still a learning process. I hope this is something people will think about and that people want to talk to you about it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Colin McCraw. I'm the founder of Writers Journey, and I just wanted to make a general comment. Since we're here in the first session, I thought this would be appropriate, and since we mentioned the word revolutionary, which is very important, I wanted to mention it. This is by Eric Fromm, a great book called On Disobedience. I'm going to substitute person or human for man. If a person can only obey and not disobey, he is a slave. If she can only disobey and not obey, she is a rebel, not a revolutionary. She acts out of anger, disappointment, resentment, yet not in the name of conviction or a principle. He then goes on to discuss the importance of disobedience. By disobedience, I do not refer to the disobedience of a rebel without a cause, who disobeys because he has no commitment to life except the one to say no. This kind of rebellious disobedience is as blind and impotent as is its opposite, conformist obedience, which is incapable of saying no. The person who can say no because she can affirm, who can disobey precisely which has chosen. I am speaking of the revolutionary, not the rebel. And I'd also just like to note, I'm the only woman up here, and some of the comments, ladies, come up here and take your place. It's not just for
About the issue of each seat having statehood, I've always found it odd that as a democracy, each governor gets 2 representatives, the senators, but that the people are divided into congressional districts. I believe this is a continuation of the idea of the king and divine rights, and that the governors and our colonies saw themselves as representative of the king, and that each peer of the realm, each governor, is entitled to 2 votes. Maybe a congressional district for Maryland. I mean, we have congressional districts with 2 senators already for several states, as you said. We also have 40-some congressional districts in the states which receive 2 senators also.
Well, sure. The only thing I don't know a whole lot about this is I do think that, and we do know that in order to have full public finance
Thank you, Elizabeth. I want to actually say this. I think that we made a mistake by not very specifically calling for full publicly funded elections as one of the bullet points. So in the spirit of we make mistakes, we're learning as we go, as one of the architects of this, my bad. I mean, for real, like, I actually think that we should have had that, and I'm sure that we're in that conversation as we move forward. But thank you for bringing Eric Fromm into the conversation, because I personally went from being a rebel to a revolutionary in a conscious manner, right? And so I do think that those things are important. I think that they will improve, and the fact that these have been brought to the proposers, I hope you're seeing the humility that we take in recognizing that there are improvements that need to be made. The last thing I want to do is talk on DC statehood. Can I be explicit and clear that the only reason DC is not a state is because of the institutionalized racism of this country? There is no doubt that Chocolate City is not a state because that is over 500,000 black folks. There is no doubt about it. So, I don't believe that the solution is to merely make those residents, give them congressional representation. I think we recognize that and all the rights and privileges of not casually, but after, and not just individual study, but actually working with people in DC who are making these demands. So DC statehood now, and I think that is the demand that we ought to do.
So thank you everyone for participating, and great thanks to David and Elizabeth for just all their great work on this platform plan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the voting started.
So if you're signed up for the text messages, you just received the poll, or you will be receiving the poll very shortly. If you're in the room and you want to vote in person, we have people who are going to make their way around to do the counting. So please don't vote twice. Try your best not to vote on a text message and do your we're ready to get started. Anybody confirm if we received that message? Yeah. Okay. Maybe something about okay, we're going to go ahead with the handbook. We'll be around. All in favor of the For those of you who look by text message, they will send at 11:45.
time to receive the text message, you will be counted. Ralph, you read it now. You put your hands down, all against. All right, thank you. I will announce the results in a few minutes.
Change text.
All right, everybody. So just so you know, I've got the gavel. So when the official count is
That's where the text, see how it works? You can change text.
All right, so everyone knows what we have upcoming next is we have our racial justice platform plank. We're going to have the process again where we're going to have the presenter read, advocate speak in favor of, and then we'll have questions and comments. And you will find out, we'll have the results of the voting will be part of the wrap up at the end of the day. Oh, right, and I also wanted to let you know that we have another workshop that's going to be starting in just a couple of minutes, and that is going to be
Waging nonviolent revolution.
That's right, my man, David Cobb and Daniel Lee. So if you like what you heard,
Keep off the straight.
there's going to be some of that going on in the workshop room. So, all right. So we're going to get started at 11:50. So we're just gonna wait for 5 minutes before we get started. Please come up to the mic. Actually, you know what? If anybody would like to make comments or announcements, we'll have 5 minutes, or we'll say 4 minutes. Right. So if you are receiving the text message, please do not vote again. I know it sounds exciting. You're like, double your pleasure. But don't do it. Just don't do it.
I like
Yeah, can you just get mine with you? Yeah, no, it's fine. Would you like to make an announcement?
Well, since this is the beginning, and since I've only had 27 years on this planet, it's a lot less than a lot of the majority of the people in this room. I just wanted to say the majority of the people here are white and either of middle age or older. I think that we're about to talk about racial issues on the platform, and that a lot of people just left the room. And I think it's really important that we address this, as Daniel Lee said in the first part, that this country was systemically founded on racism and inequality, and that's one of our biggest barriers moving forward as a country. And so I think I'm really excited to hear about this platform, but I also want to acknowledge, while this event is amazing, I think there's a lot of privilege in being here, and that the community who is white, and especially older, needs to recognize their privilege and notice that there are not the number of diverse voices in the room that need to really be here to make a new constitution of, for, by people.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Let's get some real action going. I just want to talk to you about the equal rights
Amendment. The Equal Rights Amendment is an amendment that provides equality for all women, that means all colors, reaffirms the rights of men as they have been compromised over the ages, and provides a constitutional amendment for the Supreme Court justices to rely upon as it pertains to the LGBT community. My name is Helene Swanson. I'm a founding member of Katrina's Dream, along with many other organizations from PDA, that's Progressive Democrats of America, ERA Action, ERA Coalition, National Organization for Women, so on and so forth. I have put together a rally. It's my second one, when I walked across the country from March 8, 2014, San Francisco, covering all 15 states, to call for the ratification of the ERA by asking those remaining 3 states to ratify. So we're holding a second one this year, August 26, 2016, starting at St. Stephen's and the Incarnation, the Episcopal Church, walking again to pass the White House to have speakers speak from Black Lives Matter, sorry, I skipped 1 minute sign, organizing for Black struggle. Several people are running for office. Primarily the focus this year is the intersectionality of racism and sexism. I invite you to come join us. If you like, come speak to me later. Thank you very much, everyone, and power to the people!
Actually, we have to stop. Actually, I was off. We're going to get started with the racial justice plan. Thanks. Yeah, sorry about that. I read the program wrong. Okay, folks. So everyone, if you're outside, please come on in. We're going to be starting the racial justice platform plank right now. All right, so okay, so we have the results of the previous plank. And the platform plank passes 103 to 2. All right, family. Up next, we have the lovely Yami Grace, who is going to be presenting our racial justice platform plank, followed by our device, who will be our advocate. So, Yami, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I am Anila Chanda. She is my sister in solidarity, and unfortunately, she was not able to be here with us today. I am Yami Sutra Grace on Facebook. Some of you may have seen posts of mine. I run the Black Earth Coalition and advocate of the African Americans for Burn Standards. I'm going to be reading this on my sister's. Recognizing that there are many voices and perspectives in this bill, this is a living document open to input and amendment as needed. We recognize the work by various organizations and other groups before us in developed statements and platforms in this area. This effort acknowledges the intersectionality of experience, oppressions, and possibilities across the platform as a whole. Highlights areas of systemic inequality that must be addressed. Criminal justice reform. The existing criminal justice system is about our continued well-being, as in the and prosecutorial and racial judicial bias and misconduct, the need for adequate funding of public defenders nationwide to ensure meaningful assistance of counsel for all, drug sentencing and the failed war on drugs, law enforcement operations, engagement and oversight, and the juvenile justice system. With regard to education, we need to provide for meaningful educational opportunities from early childhood and beyond, eliminating financial barriers to public education as a priority. With regard to economic justice, although there is a platform plan to address this area specifically, we cannot talk about racial justice without economics. The American system of capitalism was built on a racist system of property, ownership, and wealth creation. Inequities in race often lead to inequities in economic access and opportunity. We need to adopt policies for urban planning and economic development that not only engage the community residents, but are sustainable and which promote stable community growth. Gentrification must end now.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Seeing as this is the first presidential election cycle without the full protection of the Voters' Rights Act, we need to protect the right to vote and put in place measures that effectively counter attempts to restrict our access to the ballot box. We must also restore voting access to felons. On the subject of reparations, don't get quiet. Reparations are not only a debt owed to those whose labor was stolen and opportunity was subverted. Reparations are also owed for the crimes and atrocities committed against Black individuals, communities, and businesses post-1865. And my own add to this is where the absence of color in the room can become powerful because you can become advocates that are desperately needed for communities of color that do not have voices. We must adopt Congress bill for the detailed study into reparations, H.R. 40. Safeguards for continued advancement. In addition to addressing the long-standing issues and disparities that impact underrepresented communities, we must look forward to developing safeguards that maintain and promote progressive action. It is not enough to pass a law or win a case. Racial justice work is an ongoing endeavor that requires emphasis on support for strong communities and local decision-making. There must also be efforts for targeted economic investment that is both meaningful and sustainable. Moreover, we incorporate reference to the amendments offered by Sanders DNC platform committee members regarding the end of the occupation and illegal settlements in Israel. We must end the human rights atrocities that persist in Gaza and surrounding areas.
Thank you very much. Next up is Eric Mines. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Erica Mines. I'm a Philadelphia native, and I'm an organizer and member of the Coalition for Rural Justice. So, I start the advocacy of this racial justice claim by saying corporate greed, corporate wealth, and Wall Street and the prison industrial complex is deeply rooted in the commodifying of Black bodies for federal capital. But we already know that. I could also say Ronald Reagan's drug wars, Bill Clinton's 1994 crime war, mass incarceration, slavery by another name, the new Jim Crow, juvenile life for stopping friends, political prisoners, is also a form of capital wealth in this country too. But we all know that. call out the names of Everett Till, George Steiny, Russell Moon, Schultz, the Move 9, Maria Abu-Jamal, the Panther 21, Matubu Shakur, Oscar Lopez Rivera, Alfred Woodfox, Patrice Lumumba, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, and the Fitzsimmons. So we all know that too. Gentrification, poverty, redlining, black, brown, Marion Jones versus Maria Sharapova, John Carlos and Tommy Smith, Black Power salute in the Mexico Olympics, Miami Heat, shirts reading they could not breathe, the WNBA had to boycott, Larry King's nappy-headed host comments beyond the Oscars hashtag being so white, and the Hollywood blackness that has been whitewashed. We all live that as well. Rakia Boyd, Renisha McBride, Sean Bell, Rodney King, Amadou Diallo, Akai Gurley, Jordan Davis, Ayanna Stanley Jones, and Tamir Rice. Israel's occupation of Palestine, the murder of Muammar Gaddafi and the destruction of Libya, the murder of Berta Cáceres and the Honduras coup, the destruction of Haiti at the Clinton Foundation, the Rwanda crisis, Cuba, the Trail of Tears of the indigenous, forced migration, ICE holding camps, and Donald Trump's fascist wall building. And because just this week, U.S. invaded Syria, killing 56 more Syrians, while bringing the total to 167 so far. I can advocate for this racial justice platform because of slave premiums, slave codes, paddy rollers and paddy wagons, slave catchers, the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, the sanitation workers strike, 40 acres and a mule, living wages, gender equality, Civil Rights Act of 1866, and then one in 1964, the Vietnam War. I can also advocate for Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, Phyllis Wheatley, the Charleston Nine, James Baldwin, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Mafia Shakur. Woo! Advocating for racial justice also means white flight, white return, white privilege, white entitlement, white benefit, white denial, white refusal, white sympathy, white apologies, and the also white tears. We can also go into white appropriation, which includes David Clark, Herman Cain, Ben Carson, Clarence Thomas, Stacey Dash, Raven Simone, and Charles Barkley. And so I like to quote Ida B. Wells, who says, in fact, for all kinds of offenses and for no offenses, from murders to misdemeanors, men and women are put to death with judge or jury, so that although the political excuse was no longer necessary, the wholesale murder of human beings went on just the same. And because Beyonce had to give information at the NFL that they were also men. Ida B. Wells also said that somebody must show that the African American race is more sinned against than sinning, and it seems to have fallen upon me to do so. So in ending the restoration, the advocation for the racial justice plan, I'd like to read out names of people, unarmed victims who have been murdered by police in 2015 up until 2016. Delron Small, Deravis Rogers, Clarence Howard, Antoine Shumpert, Ali Brooks, Devontae Gates, Dole Pierre, Louise Purnell, Bing Jr., Michael Wilkins Jr., Jessica Williams, William Tillman, DeMarcus Summer, Kevin Hicks, Darius Robinson, Tori Robertson, Peter Gaines, Marcus Lau, Christopher Davis, Caitlin Rockmore, Wendell Celestine Jr., Antoine Scott, Randy Nelson, David Joseph, Keontae Deshaun Spencer, Keith Childress Jr., Betty Jones, Kevin Matthews, Michael Noel, Leroy Browning, Miguel Espinal, Nathaniel Pickett, Jamar Clark, Michael Marshall, Matt Marshall, Anthony Ashford, Rashawn Cole, Patterson Brown Jr., James McBride, Junior Prosper, Keith McLeod, Adrian Campbell, Wayne Wheeler, India Kager, James Carney III, Felix Cooney, Christian Taylor, Troy Robinson, Samuel DuBose, Darius Stubert, Albert Davis, Salvador Ellswood, George Mon, Jonathan Sanders, Kevin Judson, Spencer McCain, Kevin Bihole, Jermaine Benjamin, Chris Jackson, Kevin Higginbotham, Alan Williams, Ross Anthony, Richard Davis, Curtis Jordan, Lorenzo Hayes, Sam Bowles, Jason Champion, Brandon Glenn, Brian Overstreet, David Stieglitz, William Chapman III, Samuel Morrell, Norman Cooper, Darrell Brown, Frank Shepard V, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, Eric Harris, Dino Ivey, Philip White, Dominic White, Denzel Brown, Brandon Jones, Asfari Roberts, Jonathan Paul, Terrence Mosley, Anthony Hill, Tony Robinson, Thomas Allen Jr., Darrell Gabriel, Charlie Kavanaugh, Calvin Reed, Terry Price, Jeremy Lett, Natasha McKinnon, Alvin Hayes, Artego Howard, Andre Murphy Jr., Ryan Pickett, Frank Stewart, Matthew, Brandon St. Brown, Frank and Women and Children. They have a bomb dropped on them here in Philadelphia. And also understanding that the CIA, KKK, FBI, and the PPD are all one and the same. And I also just want to the advocating of the racial justice platform by saying racial justice begins when reparations become a prioritized must. When the accumulated wealth is returned to the true constructioners of this country, which is the indigenous inhabitants of this country and the enslaved people. And racial justice begins when the facade of America no longer exists.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Very honored to be a part of this. And I'd like to open up the floor. Thank you for showing up. And please go ahead. Questions or comments related directly to this particular platform tonight and what's been discussed. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm with Sparks. I want to make a few points to the people here today. To begin with, all the Democrats, the Republicans, the Greens, Bernie Sanders, of course, are enemies of the working class and the oppressed, of blacks, of women, and immigrants. Obama, who has been the reporter-in-chief, who has sent millions, thousands of people, somebody that built this illusion that you could have racial equality under capitalism because he's the first black president. We opposed the election of Barack Obama. And we pointed out to the fact that he's no different than the Democrats that have run this country to preserve the oppression of blacks. And in order to get true emancipation for the black working class, for the black masses together, we need to build a workers' party. And that party will be independent from the bourgeois parties that preserve private property. We were told at the beginning of this event that could we please have peace? You know the peace we're going to get under this system? We're going to get Ferguson. We're going to get Eric Garner. Some of the things that were mentioned by the last speaker are true. But how do we move forward? By building illusions in the same politicians, in the same alternatives? We have to break from that. So instead of clapping and singing, let's get serious. Let's have a program.
Yes.
The Sparks stands for Black liberation through socialist revolution, to finish the Civil War. This country was founded on black slavery, on the backs of those slaves, and there will continue to be an oppressed caste at the bottom of this society until we eliminate private property. So forward to social revolution, to the emancipation of blacks, down with Trump, which is understandable. How much time do I have left just to wrap it up? 20 seconds. I'll use my 20 seconds to speak against Hillary Clinton, who has the cynicism of, after endorsing his husband's racist politics, to lock up thousands of black men and women, to say now she represents something different than the racist white scumbag that Trump is. If you want to read our newspaper, subscribe to Workers Honor. Thank you.
And then this one with the Sparks I just wanted to pick up
on what she just said. I mean, people were clapping here. People were clapping about the fact that we need a new system. We need a revolution, right? Well, why are you here? To vote for a Democrat? To endorse Bernie Sanders as a Democrat? To endorse Jill Stein, who's part of a capitalist party? The system that's going to keep going on and on and on and killing black people and oversee this racist capitalist system? If you really want to clap about revolution, let's talk about socialist revolution. And who is going to lead that revolution? It's got to be the working class. It's been 150 years since civil wars, and blacks are still being hunted and killed every day. While Democrats preach peace, these elections are just a fight to see who will oversee the continued class war against black people, labor, immigrants, and the poor. People should be outraged and understandably vent their frustration by marching in the streets. I've been to these demonstrations, I've been talking to these people, and they are tired. And they are tired of the illusions that are being bred by people. Black, white, immigrants, women, transgender, they're all tired of being fed illusions, and they want answers. And these are not answers. This platform is not answers. We need a real revolution. And if you want to talk about police accountability, which I haven't heard yet, but I'm sure I'm going to hear it this weekend, police are only accountable to the ruling class, the party they serve. We need working class power in this country. They have their hands on the means of production, and they are the ones who can, the multiracial working class, can rip it out of their hands by the capitalists and smash this entire racist capitalist system. And if you believe in that real change, that real revolution, then you should talk to us afterwards.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Erica. And I also hope the other speakers will also really honor that this is about racial justice and about calling out the issues and concerns of our community. We know what's wrong. We know what some of the answers are. We don't need the analysis by people who have more power and privilege than us, using our movements to put forward their agenda. This is about our agenda. And that's one of the reasons I'm standing here, because there's an epidemic of black children being taken in child welfare system across this country. Black mothers and families are being racially profiled because they are impoverished. And our children taken, it's almost like the new slave block, where you can get a little black baby, or a little black child, then to be abused sexually and otherwise. So I support the platform. I would hope that the whole issue of what's happened is included in it. And the racist profiling of black mothers with Clinton's welfare reform and the whole rest of it. Okay, so it's all well and good to call it out. But in terms of what are we going to do about it, we have to turn that around. And there is the Rise Out of Poverty Act now in Congress that's trying to address some of that. Finally, I just want to say that there's been attacks against black women, impoverished black women across this country. There have been serial murders of black women in South Los Angeles, up to 200 black women missing, more than 100 thought to be victims of serial murders. How many in this room know about that? But you have one white blonde college student that goes missing and the whole damn world knows about it. So black women's rights count. We need to say their name. This is a black city, Congress city. We need to look around and deal with that and focus on the area called out to us rather than telling us what our issues are supposed to be. Thank you.
My name is Rosie Spider, and I just wanted to address two things in the criminal justice out of this platform. I really want to see that we call outright for abolishment of the death penalty, but also for abolishment of life without parole. This is also the state of and all of the other things that people talk about how to end mass incarceration.
Hold it close.
Okay. The other things people talk about when they talk about ending mass incarceration, like ending mandatory minimum sentences and all, but none of the criminal justice system is going to change as long as racism isn't eradicated, because the people who are seen as kind of other are always going to end up disproportionately in prison. And so I'm glad to see the criminal justice platform as part of racial justice, but I just think it really needs to be stronger. And the other thing is there needs to be a reaffirmation of the 8th Amendment that says excessive bail should not be imposed. I worked for a number of years with the bail fund, and it was so clear that the bail was being used in a discriminatory manner, that as preventive detention, and that once people were in jail and going to court from jail, they were again highly discriminated against as the outcome of their sentence to abolition of prisons. And then, okay, demilitarize the police.
Hi everybody, my name is Monica. I'm from Michigan. Thank you very much, ladies, for coming and speaking to us today. I'd like to speak for a second about the education. As many of you know, in Michigan, we poison poor black families in Flint with their water. And then in Detroit, we poison poor black children with poor schools that are falling down around them, teachers that call in on sick outs because they're working in deplorable conditions. Kids that are unable to learn because they're cramming 40, 50 students into understaffed classrooms, and then they don't have the learning materials that they need. I'm so glad that you included the education aspect into the racial justice platform, and I fully support this, and I'm absolutely positive that this motion will pass today. Thank you again, ladies.
The first thing I'd like to do is to acknowledge the land on which we stand, which is the land on our land, the indigenous people that's Secondly, it's very difficult as a black woman to talk about racial justice when I don't see people that look like me as the majority being represented in this room. And it bothers me when I hear people that is not of the melanated complex talk about things that they still benefit from. We can stand all day long and scream revolution, but if you're not addressing your own ancestral destruction, because this is your ancestors' bullshit we're fighting, then you're not doing a job for me or any of my black or brown brothers and sisters who are continuously subjugated in this country. Because what we seem to realize is even though we're screaming revolution because we want to break down the establishment was built on my ancestors' backs, right? They were built on my ancestors' backs. So the same way that I'm angry, you need to be just as angry. And stop this peaceful bullshit, okay? I'm tired of all this Quaker shit. I'm tired of people in this spiritual shit. Because it was religion that held my people down from actually revolting at some point. The other thing I like to address is white language. When you say the word these people, who are you talking about? If you're saying black, address me as a black woman. I'm not a these, I'm not a those. That's not the pronouns I go by. So I think white folks need to understand that their language is so also derogatory, is insulting, and is very insensitive. And y'all need to educate yourselves, because it ain't my job to do it. Secondly, we can't reform this establishment. We can't reform or make no kinds of amendments to this crooked, wicked system. It must be abolished, and it must be constructed by those who are the most marginalized people. And if anybody in this room agrees with that, you will align yourself with the black and brown struggle. Because y'all fail to realize y'all still have one up against over us in this country. We ain't got shit. It's a privilege for y'all to even be here. Where's my people at? They at fucking work right now. This should be a problem. It's a whole problem. This is the birthplace of what we call democracy, but it's also one of the most oppressed cities in the country. Let's think about the building that we're sitting in, Quakers, who felt it was their responsibility to treat black or show black how to be civilized and had a special section for them to sit. They could not sit amongst them, yet they're supposed to be one of the first benefactors of freedom, of revolutionary spirit, of freedom, like allowing space for, this is my space too. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm sick of like white folks in the movement co-opting shit, screaming revolution, as if Nat Turner ain't screaming that shit first. As if Ida B. Wells ain't screaming that shit first. As if Harriet Tubman get on this side of the revolution, they're like, give us back those resources. Y'all ain't doing shit for me until y'all get back the land, to be quite honest. And if you have power to do that, then that's what I need. I don't need you to scream Black Lives Matter. I need you to put my name on that deed. That's what I need you to do. But yeah, that's all I got right now. Because it just sickens me when I come into a room and talk about racial disparities and I don't see myself properly represented. And then we have people complaining and bellyaching when at the end of the day, I literally have to choose between this or putting food on the fucking table.
A little bit further on what Erica was saying, and because this is not a melanated room, you have a great opportunity to walk your talk. You know about the Bernie Sanders work that I spoke about before. I don't see none of y'all, or very few of y'all, standing up for Philando Castile. There's not any talks about how you are going to show solidarity. I don't need an ally. That's what I have come to realize in this campaign. Ally is one of those buzzwords that kills. There's lots of them, like intersectionality and such. I need comrades in arms. That means you are going to be in the trenches, willing to die for my cause, just like me, just like you expect me to be willing to die for yours. And we're getting freaking crickets from burners. Bernie bros, whatever. We don't see you. But we do see all of the conversations you have about why Black people vote against their own interests and what we can do to help them see how Bernie is going to, he's not a messiah, and he's never said that he was going to be the fix-all for everything, but you lift up these erroneous pictures of him, not him, at a march on Selma and want to tell Black people, see, Bernie is here for you. That's not what we need. We need all of y'all to join arms with us and stand up and say in a loud voice, we are not going to stand for any one of us to be killed, because now it's Black people in the street. Next is going to be people who look like you. And you guys are anti-racism activism, and all of y'all need a crash course in that so we can really have a revolution. Because until there's equal footing, there's not equal footing. Thank you.
So amazing, so grateful. That's all. I'm just really grateful. So thankful. And that brings us to, actually, Erica, do you want to talk about? So Erica's going to be leading.
Sure. So on Tuesday at 2 o'clock at Board and Diamond, the group that I'm with, Philly Coalition for Real Justice, we will be having a Black Resistance March to end police terrorism and state repression. And it is to address the issues around state-sanctioned violence at the hands of police, unjust murders, and things like that, not only here in the city of Philadelphia, but throughout the country. It's also to stand in solidarity with the other oppressed nations, such as Palestine, Puerto Rico, colony, and those groups of people too are dealing with similar distresses. And so it would be nice if allies, accomplices, I need y'all to come to this Spirit of John Brown, like that's what y'all should be studying, to come out, support. But that's most likely it for the most part. All over the place right now.
Where, when?
It's Tuesday, July 26th, 2 p.m. at Broad and Diamond. We will have a rally, we will have a speak out, because that is Temple University. That is a place where that's being highly gentrified right now, where it's a historic Black community for one, that is literally being erased. Our schools here are being sold, and they are being turned into historic landmark living for white wealth to return for development. We are watching our historic figures, our schools, be demolished for corporate development of universities here. Our neighborhoods are literally being renamed from historic Black places to newly white term spaces. Also understanding North Philly historic as in Joe Frazier's, Jim, Martin Luther King, Cecil B. Moore, the 64 wives, and those historic elements that shape the city of Philadelphia. So it would be great to be quite honest, I don't even want to say support because I don't need the support, but just to let y'all know what's happening. Y'all got black friends, brown friends, send them out. Can I tell you what? No. Oh, sure. So at 1 o'clock today, it'll be a 1 hour Black-led workshop space in the East Room that myself and Naomi will be also facilitating. You are welcome. But I do say I do not hold back my words. I don't care about white sensitivity at all. So join us if you like.
All right, so we're going to vote now, and that is to we're going to vote to include the racial justice platform plank, or people's platform, and Chris is going to take us home.
All right. Just like last time, you should be receiving a text message if you're signed up for texts. And if you're in the room, we'll go ahead and get started while people online. So all in favor of including the racial justice plan? Please raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay, just going to wait for the results to come in online for another 3 minutes, and I will the results of that. If you have questions, please look for one of the platform members, or send us, if you're online, you can send us a text through Sully, or through WebEx.
Plank. So look forward to seeing you. There's also workshops starting at 1, and there's also the Black-led organizing space that's happening in the East Room. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're going to, yeah, that's on. That's on. So, all right, so everybody, thanks so much for being, continuing to be a part of the People's Platform Ratification. Our next,
I didn't know
our
it was
next
here. Sorry.
platform plank is our climate justice platform, and the presenter, we're gonna have Anthony Rogers presenting, and we will have,
That's when you did.
yeah, and then we will have Ron White as our advocate, after which we will be opening the floor for comments and questions related directly to the platform, and then we'll be doing voting. So without further ado.
Did they move the microphone? Oh.
Reading this amazing climate justice plank, and afterwards, my brother's going to talk about advocating it. This is my friend Brad Johnson. We're going to be doing a climate justice workshop shortly after this is over, and just looking forward to hearing comments and having a great discussion, because this is very, very important. So, the climate justice plank reads as follows. Due to carbon emissions, fracking, and other environmentally destructive practices, but a global security issue that threatens vulnerable communities all over the world. We the people put forward this platform to address this crisis. Where we start, we call for an end to the huge subsidies that benefit fossil fuel companies. These same companies should be mandated to pay for the cost of cleanup damages caused by spills, leaks, and emissions of all kinds. And despite what Lamar Smith says and his intimidation tactics, the resistance will not be intimidated. We call on the Department of Justice to investigate ExxonMobil, which may have not only known about the dangers of climate change, but has spent millions of dollars to spread doubt about the causes and impacts of burning fossil fuels. Stop present practices. Immediately stop fracking. Stop fracking. Fracking, which is causing mass amounts of earthquakes and destroying fresh water supplies. And fossil fuel extraction by supporting the Keep It in the Ground Act. As advocates call it, keep it in the soil. Stop mountaintop removal. Close all coal mines and coal power plants. Stop the bomb trains that continue to wreak havoc on our communities. Encourage investment from fossil fuel companies and investment into renewable energy and startup climate-friendly companies. And finally, adopt new alternatives. We should emphasize new, clean technologies like cellulosic, ethanol, and algae-based fuels. Advanced biofuels have enormous potential to deliver dramatic reductions in carbon pollution and strengthen rural economies. Invest in clean, sustainable energy sources powered by the sun, wind, and Earth's heat. Invest in making all American homes more energy efficient. And excuse me, there is one more thing. We are going to promote conservation by upgrading the nation's electricity grid so less energy is lost in transmission. We're going to build electric vehicle charging stations. Building high-speed passenger and cargo rails will make significant cuts in carbon pollution emissions and will create millions of permanent family wage jobs for electricians, pipe fitters, and sheet metal workers. Good union jobs. And we're going to create a national environmental and climate justice plan that recognizes the heightened public health risks faced by low income. We're going to bring new technologies and scientific advances to clean up. United States must form our energy system away from fossil fuels and must plan for peace to avoid international climate-fueled conflicts. We should commit to completing all of these actions by 2025. That's our plan. Thank you so much. And I'm going to talk about why we were advocating for this plan, and we're going to open it up to you, the most important people.
All right, everybody, thanks for coming out. And I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. And I think I want to start by talking a little bit about what it's going to take to actually implement this climate justice platform even if it were actually adopted by the Democratic National Committee. Yes, we need a moratorium on fracking. We need massive investment in wind and solar. We need climate-related public health policies, and all of the other many wonderful things that are in the climate justice platform. We already know what we need. We know what we must do to avert the looming climate catastrophe and health crisis. The question is, how do we get from where we are right now to where we need to be? Now, I've been a grassroots environmental activist for about 5 years now. I've interviewed climate scientists, professors, activists, and land defenders on my website. I've traveled around the country giving talks and workshops. I've lived on a Navajo reservation supporting people resisting forced relocation. And last month, I wrapped up a waste reduction and sustainability program at Southfield High School. So the point of that is to say that I've seen the environmental justice movement from a variety of different angles. Right? And one thing I've noticed time and time again is that the grassroots is always a driving, motivating force behind substantial change. Always. And we really saw that with the blocking of the northern leg of the KXL pipeline. That was a grassroots victory. That was a grassroots fight. The politicians were pushing for that. If they had their way, that pipeline would be built years ago. So we've been doing good work, but now is the time for us to understand that we have to take things to an even higher level. The historical moment that we're living in absolutely demands it. So if we are serious about seeing the climate justice platform adopted and implemented, we must of course have a strategy for reaching the masses of people and winning their support. This means our climate justice movement must be diverse, and it must purge itself of the classism and elitism that is unfortunately also, in my opinion, one of the most important aspects of this whole thing is we must embrace diversity of tactics. We are currently allowed to fight for our future, but only if we do it in ways deemed acceptable by big business, government, and the privileged classes, all of whom are benefiting immensely from the status quo. And this is why we're now watching our world unravel, right? Because those who are benefiting from the status quo are the ones who are dictating the parameters of our resistance. I mean, think about that. The corporations, the upper classes, they're the ones who are telling us what is acceptable resistance and what is not. And we're like, yes, okay, sure. This is ridiculous. We're never going to get the climate platform that we read into reality by just sticking with the kind of resistance that we've been doing up until now. You have to realize that. So for the sake of already beginning to suffer the impacts of climate change, we must ignore those telling us that there is only one single way to fight for our planet and for a livable future. We must ignore the propaganda of the corporate state and of the status quo loving privileged classes. If we understand what's truly at stake and the scope of the destruction that has already taken place, this will shape the forms of our resistance and strengthen our resolve. A major barrier we face is that many people simply don't know what's going on, or they have been purposefully misinformed. Let's imagine if the mainstream media had devoted just 10% or even 5% of their massive Donald Trump coverage to the issue of climate change.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Non-stop Trump coverage, wall to wall, 24 hours a day. Just imagine how just a little bit of coverage from the mainstream media might have galvanized the national conversation. Yet, since 2009, the mainstream media has been reducing its coverage of climate change quite dramatically. In 2015, ABC devoted just 13 minutes to climate change in a whole year. According to Media Matters, Fox News was the only network to increase its climate change-related coverage. However, this was due mostly to the time they spent disparaging climate science and giving platforms to climate change denial experts. Of course, we should all know that corporations control the media, right? You know that. So think about how many car, truck, and SUV commercials you will see through a 1 hour block of TV time, right? Even NPR is running fracking ads these days. So people are being misinformed, right? They're not being told what's really going on. There's an upcoming book by a Southeast Asian author, Amitabh Ghosh, and I love the title of this book. It's called The Great Derangement, Climate Change and the Unthinkable. And I think this book is coming right on time because derangement, I think, is the exact word to explain the present situation that we're facing right now. Right? In a recent interview, Ghosh speaks about the conspiracy of silence entered into mostly by the media and cultural elite. These people and institutions are absolutely desperate to have us focusing on everything and anything other than other than the unsustainable nature of our current economic and social systems. Climate change and environment to our health and to the lives of tens of millions of people. It's happening right in front of our eyes. And the same would be front page news every single day. It would be the topic of every conversation. This room would be filled with people who are like, yes, how are we going to fix this crazy situation? But we see what's going on. People don't think it's that important, or they think it's lower tier. But this is our survival we're talking about. This is our survival. So how is it not up there more in the conversation, in our national conversation? Why is this room not filled with people trying to figure this out? I mean, I appreciate everyone who came to see this, but we need to understand that this is an emergency. But people are not treating it like an emergency. Right? I want to give an example of what I mean about the derangement of our national conversation. All day long, people are talking about why did Melania Trump steal these points from Michelle Obama. But during the same time period when this came out, a story broke that 1 trillion tons of ice had melted from the Greenland ice sheet in the past decade. And there's also a story about 85 Syrians being killed in a U.S. drone strike. But you didn't really hear anything about that. You didn't hear anything about that. All you heard about was Melania Trump stealing from Michelle Obama. This is the derangement of our national conversation. The important things that are happening are not even.
We can have 5 people. Yeah, just line up over here on my. You two can respond again. Please pay attention to the timekeepers.
Hi, there's much. My name is David Schwartzman. I'm a climate scientist, eco-socialist, member of the Green Party, etc. As much in this statement I think is very good, but I'm going to focus on thoughts that I think need some revision. For instance, moving away from fossil fuel. Keeping the fossil fuel in the soil is a bad slogan. We don't want oil in the soil. If it is, it's contamination. We want to phase out the highest carbon footprint fossil fuels first, namely coal, natural gas. Of course, frac has the highest carbon footprint. But even ordinary natural gas has equal to coal because of methane leakage, tar sands. And then use the minimum amount of conventional oil, which has the lowest carbon footprint of the fossil fuels, to do away with itself and create a total wind and solar infrastructure. Secondly, the biofuels, even the new biofuels, I think are a bad option. A lot based on GMO technology and so on. We can revitalize rural economies by supporting a shift to agroecologies and doing away with corporate control of agriculture, including industrial agriculture, factory farming, and so on. 40% of our carbon footprint comes from agriculture globally. We have to think globally and not simply the U.S. Most of humanity suffers from the lack of energy. Okay, so we cannot reduce global energy down. U.S., yes, but not globally. And finally, plan for peace. I would say work to dissolve the military-industrial, nuclear, state terror, and surveillance complex that is blocking cooperation in the world to go forward and solve that.
Please do pay attention to the timekeepers that are very nice.
I want to talk about the drastic reconstruction of our economy that Brett Johnson talked about.
In the microphone, please.
Go closer. I want to talk about the drastic. aggressive reconstruction, sweeping reconstruction of the economies of the world that Brett Johnson talked about, as well as people's power. And I really mean people's power. I'm afraid that the plank in the platform, in fact, could be used by, in fact, corporate energy producers, the big industrial, privately owned, the investor-owned utilities, who are right now in every state of the union and around the world in this great struggle with distributed energy supporters. The big IOUs, corporate money, all of them hugely bonded by Goldman Sachs, one of their major.
For many reasons, I lived in the Boston area. I was on September 21st, 2014, with almost a half million people. I'm sure some of you were there. Anyhow, I wanted to make a point about one of the things that was mentioned in the speech today, and that was about shutting down coal plants. I spent some time this summer in very rural West Virginia and eastern Kentucky when really coal was all there was. And gradually you can see those jobs going away. Coal plants are being shut down. But I think before we can just say, shut down the coal plants, we need to have a place for these people and their families to have sustainable jobs that aren't in the coal industry, but still in the energy industry. And I really think the federal government needs to step in and make sure that happens, that make sure we have a transition, because right now, it's the highest area, that area of the country is the highest area of UBT, food stamps. It's the poorest area of our country. And it's also the major industry now, because the coal plants are going away, is fast food. Every corner has an Arby's, every corner has McDonald's, every corner has Burger King. There's really nothing else there. And we owe it to our fellow country people to make sure that they have something else viable to work at besides the coal industry.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what the sister said on a couple things. I think it's really important that in this platform we highlight the idea of a just transition. And a just transition should not be a couple of lines in the middle of a paragraph. It should be at the very beginning. Because what we're about here is we're about transforming our economy to serve the people and not the corporations. And therefore, a just transition away from fossil fuels is absolutely essential. The second aspect of this is what kinds of jobs. Yes, it's great to get electricians and so forth to build these things, but what about bus drivers? What about the bus systems that are so underserving our urban communities? Where I live, the bus system is always being cut where poor people live. Part of environmental justice is really works for everyone, and making sure that those jobs remain to be good union jobs. So the final thing I wanted to point out that I think is also important is we need to be really careful about how we intervene with this using the capitalist system. A good example is biofuels. Europe put in a requirement of, I can't remember, 20% of all their cars had to be using biofuels. It totally ruined the Indonesian economy, the rural economy. It created huge palm oil plantations with burning, which created a huge amount of heat released in the atmosphere. So I think we really have to.
Yeah, so this is the last comment, and then we're going to have a response.
Hi, my name is Tricia Conley. I'm from Evanston, Illinois, a suburb north of Chicago. Thank you. I am also a public school librarian. Yes, I'm one of the endangered system that has of who they are and where they live. The other thing I want to say is that our brothers and sisters in Oregon passed a law in education where all students would get climate justice education. We need to do that in this whole country.
really appreciate all the amazing remarks that were made. And I do want to talk about just transition and myself some language that I would like to see. First and foremost, I do agree that we need to define and have a clear vision on what just transition is and what it looks like and what it is not. Because the last thing we want to do is replace a fossil fuel empire with a renewable energy empire that is still and something that's also important that I think that the plank is missing, and we should add this as well, is I forget the sister who it was who talked about better transportation facilities in underserved communities. But we also have to start talking about this idea of environmental gentrification. Because in many cases, you're starting to see what we call a contemporary form of colonization. And in that process, people, poor people and people of color are treated like toxins. And we have to be sure to understand that gentrification displaces people as much as climate-fueled storms. And a just transition does not mean that we displace people from communities like Harlem, communities like Southeast Washington, communities like downtown Portland. So that's very, very important. A just transition has to keep people where they are and not move them away. And finally, what I would say is that something that I think that the plank also needs to discuss is how we are communicating this idea of climate change. The brother talked about this idea of how the media is controlling it.
Today I'd just like to comment on the aspect of two things, and I think
we don't need the media. We have cell phones. We should and can be our own media. 100%. We can do that. So that's number one. The second thing is the plank does say that climate change cannot just be thought of as a set of nefarious natural phenomena. This is a social issue, hence the idea of justice. Climate change, straight up, is a form of violence, and we have to start communicating it that way. We also have to talk about climate change as a system of oppression, because it is also that. Climate change is racist, climate change is patriarchal, climate change is homophobic, climate change is Islamophobic, and it oppresses people. And we have to start communicating it in that way. So we're not just waiting for big storms to talk about climate change or massive heat waves to talk about climate change. It is a form of slow violence, and it takes lives just like racist police do. So I agree, I appreciate all the comments, but definitely let's define what just transition is. Let's talk about this issue of now to get the training that they need, because we're going to need the same type of revolutionary fervor that got us to the digital age, right? We had to get people from typewriters to computers, and we also have to provide free, I believe, free training for people to transition from coal and oil to wind and solar. So thank you.
I want to respond to the person who talked about West Virginia and the situation there, because I think that's a good point. Because we're not going to have a just transition under capitalism, right? We have to get that out of our heads. That's not going to happen. I've been thinking a lot about the general income. I don't know if you heard about this. This is a program that some countries are experimenting with, where they give every one of their citizens just an income for living, for being alive. The situation that we're living under right now is that you have to work and earn for every penny that you get, for food, for housing, for clothing. What they're saying on the general income is that you deserve housing, you deserve food, you deserve shelter. You shouldn't have to, if you don't have money, if you can't earn money to pay for that, you shouldn't have to pay for that. So to me, that's part of our just transition. We have 6-7 billion people on this earth, and we have increasing mechanization of everything. We're not going to have enough money, or people are going to be obsolete, and people are already becoming obsolete. If we don't do something about a general income, we don't bring that into existence, it's going to mass warfare, more terrorism, more of that. So I think to solve the situation in West Virginia, you give these people a basic income so they don't have to dig for coal and destroy our future just for the sake of their economy, their local economy. So that's my response to that. And also that I really want to reiterate again that we're not going to have a just transition under capitalism. It's not going to happen.
So I have some unfortunate news. Somebody's wallet was stolen. It's actually the manager of the building. Somebody went upstairs into a off-limits area and stole the wallet. So if anybody has any information about that, please get in touch with us right away. It's a Michael Kors wallet with a wristband.
One of the staff members here's wallet, her family members' mass card from their funerals in it, and other things that are very valuable to her, and she is very, very upset. We do not want to jeopardize our relationship with the Quakers who are letting us have the event here, so please, if anyone knows anything about it, she doesn't want to press charges, she just wants the wallet back and belongings safe. Michael Kors is the brand, and it has like a wrist thing that you can put on your wrist.
So I'm sorry to have to share that information with you. So. Yeah, we're better than that. All right, and so to bring on voting on the climate justice plank.
Real quickly, I just want to go over the results for the previous ones. There's a correction on the real democracy plank. That was actually 157 to 2. The racial justice plank passed 169 to 3. And the way we climate justice. So if you're voting by text remotely, you can do that now. I've sent out the poll. If you're voting in the room, please raise your hand and we'll start counting. Or yay. If you're voting for, voting yay. What's your question?
People talk about adding just transition, but how is just transition going to get added? Are we voting for it with just transition or without?
We're voting for it as is. We're going to open up the platform's going to be opened up again sometime in mid-August for revision. Any other questions? Okay, please raise your hand if you'd like to vote for the climate justice plan as it is. All right, all against? Okay, we'll get back to you with the results.
Thanks, friends. And great thanks to Anthony and Ron for those. And I think that there were some really good points were made, and I just do want to remind folks, like Chris said just a second ago, please, if you approve of this process, if you think this is a good direction that we're going in, do stay engaged, and going forward, we'll be able to include more voices and provide the opportunity to revise this platform. It's a process. We're getting better all the time. Which, yeah, we'll talk about that.
My organization or website is called Deep Green Philly. We're having a picnic tomorrow at Rittenhouse Square to people to come and find out about everything that's happening with the DNC. So we're going to be in the northwest corner across from the Holy Trinity Church from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we have all done.
Tomorrow, starting at 5 o'clock after the Clean Energy Revolution March, our brother and practicist Josh Fox put together a really amazing event. And we are going to be talking about the intersections of climate change and racial justice. Sharon Woodley will be there, Susan Sarandon, Danny Glover, and there will be a free screening of Josh's latest movie and in concert. And it's all free. It starts at 5 o'clock in Vernon Park in Germantown. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a chance to have a discussion. My brother Brad with Justice Movement, so I hope you'll join me at the workshop's right over here at 2 o'clock. So we'll take a little break. Please hydrate yourselves, guys. Like, we're living in climate change. It's like a heat box. Stay hydrated. Very important. Keep your eyes on your sisters and brothers quick and look out for each other. Seriously, stay hydrated. Thank you.
Right, so if I pass out, somebody get me. All right, sisters and brothers, thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have our economic justice plank. Now we've got Jonathan Cini and Sherry Lopela who are going to present and advocate. So we're very excited about this platform plank. A lot of work has been put into this. And all right. So to start off with, we're going to have Jonathan as the presenter.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to make sure you're out there and pumped up. This is a revolution, right? Well, it's a great, great honor to be here before you and having been asked to present the economic justice planks. And I want to thank Jack Rabbit and Shauna for obviously organizing this. A great round of applause for them. And I know there are a lot of other volunteers who put this together. And I particularly want to thank Jack Rabbit because when he told me it was going to be really hot here, I told him I was going to come in shorts. And he said, no problem. Right? Dress and made it possible to do this in this lovely heat. I'm going to read the economic justice plank. I'm just going to say a couple of quick things that set the context for this. The first thing is, who the heck am I? My name is Jonathan Ticini, and I've been a long-time labor organizer, political activist. And what got me into this sort of movement is a book I wrote called The Essential Bernie Sanders and His Vision for America. And I actually brought Engaging Capitalism outside. I brought some books. I don't want to interfere here, but I'll stay later if anybody's interested. And I've been engaged in this political revolution. I'm optimistic. On the course, people who basically said, we've had enough, and that we want a different kind of country. And first of all, I made a lot of new friends. Patty, I see, is right here from Florida. I don't know, I left my glasses out there as well. I'm sorry if I don't see you, because I can't see you. But it's really been an extraordinary experience because of these incredible people who I met. And this People's Revolution, which is what the context of this People's Convention is, really is happening out there. Now we have a lot of challenges down the road. How do we get there? And what the plank that I'm about to read reflects is really what those people all across the country have been saying. The people who lost their factory jobs, the people who really felt that something was not right in this economy. And so this plank was created by Bruce Wright and Sherry Lopela, who's going to be speaking afterwards, after I read the plank. Neil Taylor, Akshat Tiwari, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Josh Snodgrass of Occupy the SEC and Alternative Banking Group. So very congratulations to you all. And here's what the plank says. The United States remains the wealthiest and most powerful nation on earth. However, the last 4 decades have been marked by decreasing incomes and more precarious wealth for individuals. While the power of corporations has increased, we the people, we aim to improve the current conditions which result in income and wealth inequality for disparities in wealth and control the financial system that triggers these conditions. These large economic disparities allow powerful interests to rewrite laws and decimate communities.
practicing clinical medicine because the system really stinks. And they've gone into these administrative positions. And we have a lot of need for actual hands-on health professionals. So I think a big part of the transition is going to be pulling those people back into doing direct patient care. I know I would do patient care in a single-payer system, but to me the thought of practicing in this system was a nightmare because I was there for 17 years and I know, what it was like. So yes, transition is really important. Health insurance premiums going up. I didn't mention the fact that unlike other nations, we spend a third of our healthcare dollars on bureaucracy, and that's at every level. It's the insurance companies, but it's also the physician practices where we spend about $70,000 a person per year just on billing, and that's gotten worse under the ACA. Hospitals often have more billing people than they have nurses trying to deal with this very complicated system. They have to keep track of every Band-Aid and aspirin, which is ridiculous. They should have a global budget where they just focus on care, and that's what single payer does, gives the hospitals a global operating budget. In terms of medical necessity, right now HR 676 is very comprehensive. I think a lot of us believe that when it's about health and not about profit, because you all know that the pharmaceutical companies are about profit, right? And they're not actually interested in solving the healthcare problems that we have unless they can make a boatload of money off of it. So if we have a national system, we can prioritize, what our needs are, and that's where our spending for research can go to address those needs. And I think that includes non-medical, non-Western medicine therapies, which many countries like France, which has one of the top healthcare systems in the world, includes a lot of complementary and alternative medicine because it's more effective often than you do And I can tell you, as a mother and a pediatrician, I'm always careful about what kind of medications I give to my patients, and I would always love to be, taking them off of medicines or avoiding medicines altogether. So I think, and that's part of also like what we can work because it'll be a participatory system where we start to have some say for these things. And finally, doctors as the enemy. This practice the way that we want to practice. We have to compromise our integrity and write things like figure out how do you write something in a chart just the right way so the insurance company won't turn it down and your patient can get the care that they need. You can't even communicate openly with other health professionals about what's going on out of fear that that patient might not be able to get the care that they need. We have administrators and insurance companies who have no medical training at all telling us what our patients can and cannot have. One of the most powerful protest moments I had was when these two physicians who've been in practice for 20 years and were loved in their community, but they weren't admitting enough patients in the hospital, was telling them you need to admit more, you need to spend less time with your patients, and they refused to do that. And the hospital gave them 1 month's notice and closed their practice. This was in Cleveland. It was a non-profit hospital, St. John's. And we drove to Cleveland, and we were out in the hospital, and it was nurses and doctors and patients, and we were all united together, saying that, this is wrong, and this is what it has to be. We've got to come back together and be human again. And to me, that's what having a healthcare system about health is. It's about humanity again and respecting that. So I'll stop there.
So we're going to continue to take questions. So if you would like to, again, speak on the healthcare through the right platform type and things that Margaret, Dr. Flowers has said, please feel free to come up. And again, do keep your comments to 2 minutes or less.
Thank you. I just want to leave you with information and comment. In the summer of 1974, President Richard Nixon, President Richard Nixon went to Congress and said, I want health care for all Americans. It'll be cheaper, it'll be better, but the main thing is to do the right thing to do. So if you go to the President Permanent Case website, you can see Richard Nixon's letter to Congress in his own words. It's very well written. I don't know if it would work. It may have been HMO for all, work for all. But the point is that it's not only is health care right, but to me it's not really a liberal issue. It's like a human rights issue or an American freedom and democracy. You have a right to health, and part of that the government should be able to decide to help you. So I'm just letting you know about it. Thank you.
it's really important to see the interrelationship. The fact that here in Philadelphia, a couple of years ago, 4,000 educators, that includes public school to all public schools, teachers, assistant principals, art and music teachers, they were all, no, not fired, quote, laid off. Okay. And so also, if we see the relationship between incarceration and the many people who are not given a certain degree of attention and end up in prison, people who were selling a joint or two, and who ended up in prison for something that was done maybe 18 months, 16 months, and how, especially, the vast majority of folks who are in prison are there for low-level drug charges. And so it is a matter of wanting to incarcerate, of wanting to fund private prisons. And so it is our job to understand this interrelationship and not each one of us to say a specific item, but to see the relationship between corporations, CEOs, and capitalism as it is today.
Thank you. I'm going to share my story as an attestation for the need of change. So thank you for fixing the mic, and thank you for this space. I've been working since I was 16, I'm 32, very tight schedule. A lot of worry and anxiety about possibly going bankrupt, how am I going to pay to raise the doctors? Because if you have a malady and you can't just get it fixed, in a few visits, like you might go to a dozen doctors until you can finally get a conclusive diagnosis and get real help that you need. And I'm in the middle class, and I'm worried about my own health. There are people, and this is the story not just of me, but millions of people in this country, and you think the working poor, people who can't work because they're disabled, and they can't get health care, they don't have the money to do it. Huge impact on our country. And when you think, yes, economically, it would cost money to do this, but really we have a lot of money. We need neighbors elsewhere in the world. We have a very inefficient system. But we can't even begin to calculate how much our society gains when all of us are healthy, not just economically, but spiritually. We are a better country, we're a healthier country when we're all healthy, and we all have the opportunity to pursue the American dream. Because
I see I have a very good healthcare package. I got a huge education in our current healthcare system after I left my position. I was able to get Obamacare, which I'm grateful for.